Hi everyone, welcome back to Being Intentionally Creative, and I think I've got a pretty interesting topic for you today. I finally wanted to get into all the magical places that creativity lives. I thought, well, we've had a few videos already, we've talked about a few things, but now let's get into the magic of where it lives. And I think that's really important because I've found with people that once they sort of know all the different places it lives, then it kind of opens their eyes to how they are being creative in their day-to-day lives. So I have some things to show you, but first what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about what I think a lot of people think being creative is. And I'm using quotes here because we tend to get stuck, I feel, in thinking that only certain people are creative. But I want to sort of blow that out of the water, if you will. I want to open up a box that sort of says, but there are lots of other places people are being creative. In one of my videos, I mentioned about how people used to come up to me and they indicated when they were looking at my artwork, that wasn't something they could do. When they did that, I didn't know how to respond, and now I do, which is brilliant, and it will help you as well. If someone is looking at what you're doing because you are being a creative, and if they say they're not creative, then after this video, you can have a different conversation with them. And as I found with the people I've talked to, it's been a real eye-opener when they realize it's not just a select group of people that are creative. And I know with all my heart that's really important for people to understand. Because once they know where it lives, then they can start bringing more joy into their lives, which is so incredibly important. It has always been incredibly important for me. It is especially important to me now. And I just feel that it opens things up. It's like, wow, I didn't realize that was being creative. Okay? So I'm gonna read something to you, and then we're going to talk more about outside of this arena. So when you think of creativity, what careers do you most automatically think of? And I came up with 5 that I think people most commonly, or they were the people that came into my mind. So I have artist, writer, singer, dancer, and musician. And today we're going to talk about outside of that area. So here's something I did up. This is my sort of cheat sheet, if you will, about where I think a lot of people may consider. Like if I walked up to you on the street and I said, so tell me who you think would be a creative individual. I think some of these people in these professions would be the types of people you would consider. And that's all well and good. I mean, these guys are creative. Absolutely. I mean, I think of artists and what they do. I think of writers, singers. Like all of these guys are creative. All these people. I shouldn't say guys. All these people, if they're in one of these groupings, would be a creative. Absolutely. No doubt in my mind whatsoever. I think what we need to start doing is, but it goes beyond that. Okay? And there's some things that we don't think about that now when I think about them, I'm going, I never saw it before, but now I do. So I have some visuals for you because for me, visuals are extremely important and very helpful for me in my sort of understanding my learning process. I am going to show you a bunch of pictures, and there's a word and or words above each of these pictures. I want you to sort of open your mind to, can you see the creativity that's coming through? And some of these may be really obvious to you, but are they? Because some of them I haven't thought of before. Like before I got into this whole being intentionally creative, they weren't people or groupings that I would have necessarily have thought were creative. But when I look at it now as a whole, I'm going, wow, absolutely, there's creativity in that. And it blew my mind, so I'm hoping to figuratively blow your mind with this video. So here's the first one. And I don't mind covering up my face for the, sort of few seconds that we have to look at the Okay, so this is a very colorful picture. And as you can see, I hope you can make out the word graffiti at the top. Now, I know, and I can appreciate that when it comes to creativity, and there's a lot of it out there in the world, that some of it isn't done to the highest and best good of those around you and or others. With this course and with everything I share with you, my intent that is anything creative is done to the highest and best and honors everyone around you and or others to promote good. Okay, so I want to say that I'm not sharing any of this with you as a idea for someone to go out and do something that isn't to the highest and best of everyone, because right now we need that. Anyway, getting back to graffiti, when I've gone past, we have railway crossings in and around where I live. Not many anymore because the railways have sort of gone off and aren't used anymore. But I always used to see the graffiti that was on the side of the rail cars, and I thought, what a destruction of property. And in some cases, that's exactly what that is. I mean, it's not the rail companies. I don't think have thrown it wide open. If you do graffiti, go and mark up our rail cars. And I used to be annoyed by that, but now, because I know where creativity lives, I look at this and I think I am sorry, but it is absolutely amazing when you see some of the graffiti that people have done. I can't keep anything the same size. So if I'm working on a blank piece of paper trying to do something and, I'm trying to write across it, I don't know about anybody else, but my writing sort of goes from being very big down to, small. Like I can't keep the consistency of the sizing. And I can't see sort of a visual like these people can when they're doing it. Like I am just fascinated now by murals that are on the side of buildings. I mean, the town that's not too far from me, they have a mural on the side of their building. And sometimes on social media, I see people who have done these incredible murals. Now, graffiti, I'm sure, I don't know a lot about it, may take on different forms as to what that looks like. But I'm absolutely astounded by the artwork. And it's okay. So they are an artist, but it's considered graffiti. So I'm sort of taking it out of the artist portfolio, and I'm sort of putting it off on its own, because graffiti, I think, is very unique in and of itself. But there's absolute creativity. And in this picture, and I'm going to let you know that I use Copilot to get some of these pictures, and I'm using it, so it's an AI generated tool that I'm using, and I'm okay with that. I just wanted to mention to you that's where these pictures came from, and I'll be listing that in the description below. But like, these guys are really creative in coming up with the idea and how they're going to do it, and in the ability they have to keep it consistent with the writing anyway. I'm fascinated by this type of thing. And yes, it is still destruction to property in some cases, but in other cases, I mean, someone has been given, here you go, here's a wall, do something that's in alignment with, and whatever that is. So graffiti is definitely a form of creativity. Because this is something I do. There's a lot of creativity that goes into making cards. I spend hours, and I do mean hours sometimes, creating cards. It's not just a hobby, it is a form of creativity, because I have to think about colors, I have to think about size, I have to think about design. I'm working constantly to try and figure out, so what am I going to do to make this card up? There's a creative, there's creativity behind that. I have another word I was trying to come up with and I'm missing it totally, so that's okay. But there's creativity in that, for sure. It's not just a hobby. It's not just someone throwing together a card. There are people that, like myself, who take tons of time to create these. I get that there's some that are just made up in a factory that are just thrown out. But again, They started with somebody's idea. Somebody's imagination came up with something and designed what one could use to put on a card. And they're getting more and more extensive with the things that come out. So definitely there's creativity in making cards. Now, I've had a little bit of pushback on this one, but I will explain to you what I'm thinking with this one. So this is baking. Don't those things look good? They make me hungry. I haven't eaten yet, so I'm very much appreciating this picture. So the pushback on this one was in regards to, well, when you bake a cake, you have to follow the rules. And I get that. To make the initial, like you need your flour, your water, is it baking soda? You can tell I don't bake, right? I'm not sure of all the ingredients. So I get that a cake needs some specific ingredients, and you really should follow what you're doing. But once that part of it's done, you can get extremely creative with how you decorate something. Think of any of the shows that are out there, the baking shows, the cooking shows. I mean, people are being incredibly creative. But I bet you any money, if you said to someone who, wasn't on one of these shows, wasn't working in a restaurant, that they'd go, well, I'm not creative. And I'm thinking, but every day you make a meal, you are being creative in what you're doing. You're being creative in how you're cooking it, what you're adding to it, whether it be, spices, whether it be toppings on cupcakes, a cake. Like, you are being creative because you're having to think about, what do I want to do to liven this up? But how many people think about that? You make an omelet. Yeah, I'm just cooking. No, you're not just cooking, you're being creative. And when you start thinking about it that way, then it becomes more fun. You're not just cooking a meal, you're creating something. And then it gets more exciting because it's like, ooh, so if I'm being creative, what else can I do to intensify this bit of creativity? So yes, you have to, take into consideration specific ingredients to make specific things. But when it comes to decorating, when it comes to, and I'm going to say accessorizing, and that's not the right word for cooking or baking, but you get the point. You have other things that you can bring into the picture to make it be a creative endeavor. So think about that. Think about some of the things you're doing that are in alignment with that, because I think it's really important, because it makes it more fun to do some things if you realize that you're being creative. So here's another one along the lines of, I have one that has got to be my last one, for sure. Okay, so we have shakes and sundaes. Don't those, again, I'm not a big dessert person either, which is really interesting that I am sharing with you some of these things. But have you ever, so this is a bit twofold, because you can go out to a restaurant and they can make you a shake or a sundae. But have you ever thought of, when you're making these, if you're, you have people over or you're doing it for the kids, you're being creative when you're making these. Just to let you know, what cup am I going to put these into? Or what vessel is this going to go into? What ingredients am I going to use? How am I going to top this off? Like, am I going to use maraschino cherries? Am I going to make it chocolate whipped cream, or am I going to do vanilla? Do we have different colors of ice cream in here? Think of Dairy Queen and how creative they are with their shakes and I don't go to Dairy Queen very often, so I apologize for not having the right words here. But again, how creative are they being? They're coming up with new ideas. They're making it colorful. They're making it the right, sweet. They're sweet anyway. But I want you to start thinking about what you are doing or potentially doing in your day-to-day. I remember when I was growing up, floats. So a root beer float, a ginger ale float, a Coke float. I mean, we're being creative in doing these things, but yet we often think, well, we're just putting together a float. I want you to start thinking about the creativity that's going into what you're doing. All right? So you're not just making a sundae. You're being creative in what you're making. So think about that. Now, here's another one that most people would not think is being creative, but I'm here to tell you it is. So room rearrangement. Say that 10 times fast. Now, I didn't quite get the picture I was looking for with this one, but I do like the outline or the outlay of this, so that's why I used it. So imagine you want to rearrange your room, or you're getting rid of some furniture and you're bringing new furniture in. Most people would think, I'm just going to go shopping, I'm just going to pick out what I like and carry on with life. Well, realize that whether you're rearranging your room or going out and buying new furniture, you're being creative in that, because you're thinking about what you like. You're bringing different colors into play. You're bringing different designs into play. You're putting them in specific spots around your room. You're absolutely being creative. Most people, think, well, I'm just going to throw this over there and I'm going to throw that over there and that looked nice, so I'm just, throwing this into the mix. But there's creativity in that. Now, if you decide to rearrange your room and you look at it from that perspective, it's not such a daunting task. And it opens up your imagination to different things. Again, this was not something I would have thought of, 5 years ago, that I was being creative if I was rearranging my room. And yet we are, right? It's simple things like that that we need to appreciate, that we are being creative. We're taking our styles into consideration. We're, yes, maybe looking online at things, or we're getting ideas from other people. But at the end of the day, ultimately, it's your creativity that's going to create that room, that atmosphere that when you walk into it, gives you a sense of home, gives you a sense of well-being, of comfort. Think about that next time you take, a pillow from this couch and you put it over on that couch, or the next time you take all your pillows and go, you know what, I want to switch this up a little bit. What you choose, you are being creative in that choosing. Very important. Now, I did wear, and you're not able to see it very well today, but clothing. Have you ever thought about clothing as a creative activity? Well, I want you to start thinking about that. Most people think I get up in the morning and I just throw on willy-nilly whatever. And I do that most mornings. But there's a creative aspect to my clothing and what I wear. There are colors taken into consideration. There's style taken into consideration. There's the feel of the clothes on me that I'm taking into consideration. And I want you to think about that. It's not just clothing anymore. It's, what is my style? What are the colors I like? What is the comfort level I want? And now, some of you may be thinking, I'm out to lunch, and that's fair. I get it. But would you look at your life a little differently if you realized just how creative you were being with what you wear? The shoes that you decide to wear, with the pants you've got on, or with the top, how you're going to accessorize that. Are you going to wear earrings, rings, bracelets, or watches? Are you going to have a necklace on? Are you going to put a belt with that? If you have some fancy event to go to, are you thinking, you're thinking, I got to get clothes? And I'm at a point in my life where shopping isn't my thing anymore. It used to be, especially when I weighed 130 pounds. It very much was my thing. I don't think people really realize the creative aspect that goes into picking out your clothing. And it's a direct insight into who you are as an individual and what you like. And I have to give full credit to people who go, I don't care what you think about how I'm dressed. And I'm sure I get people looking at me because I have a company here, not personally, it's not my company. There's a company called Sweet Legs here in Canada. And I just love their leggings because they are so colorful and bright. I mean, they have plain leggings, like just a solid color. I am not one for solid colors. I like design, and their leggings provide that for me. So yeah, there's definitely creative, not only in what I'm picking out, but in how they designed it. We may look at them, because they're fashion designers, as being the creative ones. But let me tell you, what you're picking out, there's creativity in that. And I want you to know that, because it'll make getting dressed in the morning a little bit more fun for you, because you might think, ooh, great, that would look really good. And you get excited about it. And that's what creativity is all about. It's about that excitement that you feel because you realize that you are being creative. You are. Like anything, pretty much anything you do is going to be creative in one way or another. And when you realize where that creativity is and that you have it and that you've had it your entire life in pretty much everything you're doing, and actually, you know what, I'm going to lie. I'm going to say it's in everything you've been doing. It just makes life a little more fun, exciting, and things that you used to think were daunting and you didn't want to do and you wanted to put off aren't so daunting and wanting to put off anymore, because it's like, ooh, I can experiment with this creativity in this regard or in this regard. So that's extremely important. Now, this next one, when I first came up with this one, I was going, ooh, this is going to be a hard sell. But it's not. Because the more I thought about it, and it's interesting, when you start realizing where creativity lives, then you start to, it becomes easier to realize where it is, and you see it more easily than you may have before this video. All right. I don't know how many of you drink coffee in the morning. Maybe you're a tea person. Maybe you're neither of those people. Maybe you're, well, if you're making a smoothie, then you can kind of go to the shake side of this world. But the reason I struggled with this one originally was because I thought my mom, she used to drink her coffee black. And I'm going, well, black coffee isn't very creative. And then I went, no, stop the filming for right now. This is where you're being creative, because what's the brand of coffee you are picking up? There is it decaf? Is it regular? Is it dark roast? Like, there's all kinds of coffees out there, aren't there? They're flavored coffees, non-flavored coffees, you know, the different decaf, caffeinated. I was in a store recently because I wanted to get something different from a coffee perspective, because I'm having issues with my stomach. So I had to spend some time looking at the shelf with all the different coffees on it to come up with, what do I want? So I have to get creative in what I'm choosing by looking at everything that's out there and then start figuring from my mindset, so what's the most creative thing I can get from a coffee perspective? Now, if you add anything to your coffee, you're being creative, because what you're putting into your coffee. And again, people are going to, think, Natalie, come on, really? Coffee making's creative? Yes, it is. Yes, it is, because you can do so many different things with it. So it's not just making coffee anymore. It's not just making breakfast anymore. It's not just making dinner. When you're adding things, when you're, so you make this, you make a steak. Let's say you're making a steak. So you get your steak and you're cooking it, and you are adding spices to it. Are you cooking it in a skillet? Are you cooking it on a barbecue? Like, you're being creative in how you're actually going to cook that. And then, what are you going to add to it? Are you going to add rice? Are you going to add potatoes? Are you going to have vegetables? What kind of vegetables are you going to have? How are you going to put it on the plate? Now, I'm not one for doing what chefs do and, layering everything. However, still, the creativity that comes into these things is extremely important. And I want you to know that. Now, I'm briefly going to stop this just for a moment. I have to plug in my camcorder, but we'll be right back. It's kind of funny. I'm almost thinking I should just plug this thing in all the time so that it doesn't run out of juice at all. I know it's not necessarily always best for the battery to do that, but it would definitely solve me having to stop and start videos. Okay, now this next one is, for some people, is going to be so far. You thought the coffee was outside the box. Okay, I am going to take you even further outside the box so you can get a clear grasp of, yes, I'm willing to push the envelope on this to explain to you just how creative we are as individuals. Now, this one may not apply to everybody. However, if you know someone who has to do this, please share this with them, because I think they'll get they may or may not get a good kick out of this, but I love this one. I love this one. So, see, we're cutting grass, or the topic is cutting grass, but you'll notice that it is a sheep. And it could be any animal. It could be a goat. It could be a cow. It could be a horse. The point is, they're eating the grass, okay? Now, I love this one because this has absolutely nothing to do with animals, but it stumps people, and that's why I've got it in here. And if you don't mind, put down below sort of what you think the whole cutting grass is. I have a 2-acre property that I have to cut grass on every summer. My husband's on the road. I'm the one who does most of the cutting of the grass. And actually, I do enjoy doing it because it gets me out of the house and it gives me time in nature, which is so incredibly important to me. Just to be outside and to be out of the 4 walls, because I spend most of my time here doing creative things. Now, when you have that amount of grass to cut, it does get boring after a while, going around in circles. I don't know how many of you who are watching this actually cut grass, whether it's a postage stamp you're cutting or whether it's 2 acres or more that you're cutting, but going around in circles can be kind of boring. Well, I don't cut grass like that anymore. Again, it came down to wanting to not make this such a monotonous type of activity, but you can get creative cutting grass. I do designs in my lawn. Now, when I say designs, I don't mean intricate like you might do if you were doing something like on a person's head, right? I don't do that. But so I can do circles in my lawn. I can do squares in my lawn. I can do ovals in my lawn. I can triangles I haven't really done. I can do curves in my lawn, which actually that's the most fun I have because I live close to a highway, and I have moments where I'm doing a windy road, call it a windy road design on especially the back part of my lawn because it's open for that. But I never thought of cutting grass as being creative. And what was really fascinating to me was I had found something my dad had wrote after he passed away, where he talked about wanting to do, you know, when he cut his grass, he didn't just go around in circles. And I didn't know that because I remember cutting grass for my dad and you went slow and you were methodical about it because he was very pristine about his lawns, which fair, you know, his lawns, his way. And I didn't realize he was wanting to be creative with how he was cutting the grass. And it's the same with a postage stamp backyard of a lawn, because one thing I will tell you is it's good to change up how you cut your grass. It's better for the lawn if you're not doing it always in the same direction. I don't know the reasoning behind that. I just know that to be. So I will switch up how. I mean, I'll go kitty corner one week and then the other week I'll switch it up. I have a tub that I put flowers in the summertime. So I'll start there and I'll just circle around and around and around. I'm sure people who drive by me must think I'm out of my mind. But you know what? I'm being creative in how I cut my lawn. It's not so boring when I'm doing that. And it kind of makes it fun for me because I don't know what people are thinking. And especially when you're doing the windy. I often think people who are driving down the highway may think I'm drunk, and I'm not. But it's just the fun. I mean, this is where the fun of creativity comes in, because you're thinking outside the box and you're taking an activity that normally would be extremely, and I mean, cutting grass, and when you got to do it for 2 hours, I mean, that's a stretch of, oh my God, like, how am I going to make, what am I going to do? Now, occasionally I'll listen to something on my iPhone, but normally I'm just, you know, twirling around out on the lawn, and I need to make that 2 hours fun. And I get creative. And the other cool thing is when you do that is how it looks once it's fully cut. Like, I love once my lawn's cut because it looks so much better than before I cut it. But the design inspires me, and it's nice to look at. So you may think that a lot of what you're doing in life isn't creative. Well, you know what? It is. And I feel that once we see all these different places it lives, that then we can really appreciate what we're doing, and it's more fun. It's not such a chore. If you have to move furniture Now it's not a chore because you can see the creative aspect in it. You have more fun picking things out, or, you know, deciding, ooh, this would look really good over there. Ooh, maybe not. Maybe I'll put it over here. Like, there's a creative, there's your imagination coming to play in all of it. I think of the work environment. Again, I left the corporate world before I understood creativity. I think now back to what I was doing, because I was a business analyst and I had to take requirements, write test cases for them. What's the word I'm looking for? I had to do the test cases, and that's not the word I'm looking for. But anyways, I had to do the test cases. Now imagine how much more fun that would have been if I'd known what I was doing was creative. I could have enjoyed my job so much more. So there's creativity in your job. There's creativity in the way you go to work, or just driving somewhere. You know, you switch it up. You're being creative because you think, ooh, well, maybe we'll go this way. Mother Nature, oh my God, this year has been creative beyond, and I'll say stupid because she has been. But one day when I was out doing my clearing of the driveway, which I did pretty much every day this past winter, one day the wind started coming in every different direction. Like it'd come this way and then this way, and then, oh, it was just all over the place. And I thought, okay, I need you to stop first. But Mother Nature has been creative in what she does. Nature is creative in what it does. I don't like spiders. I'll be the first to admit it. Have you ever spent time looking at the webs that spiders create? My blue spruce are perfect for them in the summertime because there's so many different places they can build their webs. I actually spent time one day and I went around and I marveled at the webs these spiders had created. And I went, wow, like the creativity in what they're doing. And they rebuild, and they're resilient because if their web gets destroyed, they just rebuild another one. And I admire them now. I still don't like them, but I admire them. So really pay attention to the creativity that's going on in nature, because it's, when you see it and you get it, it's amazing to know what nature is capable of doing. Like every year with the flowers coming up, the trees blooming. I mean, you just think, well, a tree blooms, yeah, whatever. No, there's more to it than that. It's the creative nature behind it that I really want you to understand. Now, I am going to go out on a far, far limb here, and I brought a prop with me. You see this? It's an egg. And for one very, very important reason, because this isn't just an egg. It isn't. This egg is creative. And you're probably going, are you serious? How far is she going to push this whole creativity thing? And some of you may have already signed off by now thinking she's lost her mind. But no, I haven't. Okay? This egg is creative. And do you know why this egg is creative? Because of what it can do. And you're going, but it's an egg. I know. However, French toast, cakes, omelets, quiche, and I'm not coming up, just a hard-boiled egg. I mentioned omelets, which when I go on vacation, they make, they're so good. Their omelets are so creative. Oh, I love them. This egg, because of all the things you can do with it, is creative. Have I pushed the envelope too far? I don't think so. And I love the fact that I can look at things now and go, how creative is this? Whether it's something you're doing, whether it's an object like this, there's creativity in it. You can decorate this egg. So again, there's creativity, not only for you, but for the egg, because the egg is giving you the shell where you can decorate it, and you can be creative with that. I mean, Easter's coming up. Am I good? Have I missed Easter? No. No. Anyway, I'm trying to think of when this video, actually I will have, Easter will have passed by the time you get to see this video. Not the point, doesn't matter. This egg, for some, becomes creative because it's allowing you to decorate it any which way you want, any how you want, whether you just put it into a die, whether you take markers to it. I know some people, I've seen, so there used to be a long time ago, people used to, and my sister had done this, where you very carefully put a hole at each end, and then you blow the egg stuff out of it, and then you decorate this. think of Fabergé eggs. Oh my God, the detail and the creativity that goes into them. I don't know if they're still making them, but definitely a creative aspect on that one. I just want you to realize, and this is why I love this, talking about this so much, is there are a lot of people in the world who don't think they're creative. A lot of people. And I'd be willing to pretty much guarantee that anyone who said to me they're not creative, all I need to do is listen to you for a little while, and I'm going to start to see where your creativity lives. And if I can't, I'm going to bring it back to the basics of, but look at how you dress yourself. You're being creative in that. How you make your bed. I mean, that's a stretch in itself. It's like the coffee. That's a stretch. But how are you making your bed? You're being creative in how you're doing it. How you put the colors together on your bed. Like, you have to, when it comes to creativity, you really have to get outside this mindset that these are the only people that are creative. It goes so far beyond this. So far beyond this. It's everybody. And that's what being intentionally creative is all about. It's about you knowing where creativity lives, the magic in everything you do, so that cooking meals for the family isn't such a big deal anymore. Cleaning the house. I hate cleaning. I really, really do. And I'm sure my mother, who is no longer with us, shakes her head every time I go around and clean the house because I don't do it the way she would like it, which is totally cool. But I have to be creative in how I do it. Right? So yes, it's still a task, and yes, it's something I still don't like doing. But if you can spin it in a creative way, all I'm saying is it makes what you're doing a lot more fun. I'm not going to stretch it anymore by, bringing in any more props, although there's probably a lot around this room that I could bring into it and say it's creative. I'm looking at, I have some fake pumpkins over here, so I'm thinking Halloween. You're being creative when you do your pumpkin at Halloween. I will stretch this to the nth degree to get you to see where creativity lives, because it is absolutely everywhere. Anyway, I have talked enough. My mouth is starting to dry out, so I want to be creative and get some water or something that I can drink. I just want you to know, and I want you to appreciate, if you have never thought of yourself as creative, you absolutely are. If you know someone who doesn't think they're creative, I would love if you would share this video. If none of my other videos with them, share this one with them, because it is incredibly important that once you know where creativity lives, it's just the weight that comes off your shoulders some days is incredible because of the creative world you can live in and the things you can do and the practice that you can put into whatever it is you want to be creative on. The more you do it, the better it's going to get. And I know that from experience. Anyway, I am done. Please let me know in the comments below what you think as far as, can you see it now? If you didn't see it before, can you see it now? And is it going to make a difference in your life or the life of somebody else? Because the world is awash with creativity. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that. Take this whole video as you will. I hope you've enjoyed it. This is one of the things I absolutely love talking about, because I know it inspires others to finally start tapping into their creativity, because they get it. They know where it lives now, and they can see it in more places than they ever saw it before. And always, and I mentioned this at the beginning, always use your creativity for good. Inspire others with your creativity, and let's just bring more happiness into the world, because we can do it through our creative nature. Anyway, have a great day being creative with everything you do, and we will see you in the next video. Bye for now.